Why spend time pairing socks when you can be cheating your potatoes? Why pair socks when you can be pricking out your seedlings?
Playing games on the Switch.
Why pair socks when you can be sowing seeds instead? Hello, welcome to Angelina Grows. I'm on the allotment on a beautiful hull day, and I'm going to have a tour around the allotment, and I will talk you through what I'm doing as we go. So here we go. Okay, we're in the greenhouse, so I thought I'd start with a look at what I have sown. I understand that there are a lot of new growers out there, judging by the amount of seeds that are suddenly missing from the supermarket shelves. I'm very excited for you. I hope it goes well for you, and I hope you get crops. So I'm going to show you what I've sown, but bear in mind I have been growing my own for about 20 years and I've had an allotment for 6 years. I also have a greenhouse, which gives me a bit of a head start, so I can sow things a little earlier than I would if I had no greenhouse. And I also have a polytunnel, which also gives me the opportunity to plant things out a few weeks earlier than I normally would. So, here we go. This is my little greenhouse that is inside my big greenhouse. Now my greenhouse is not heated, so this little greenhouse gives me opportunity to bring on things that aren't quite hardy, and they're not non-hardy either. So non-hardy things will have to be started on the windowsill in the house and brought on there. And anything that is hardy, once it has germinated, can come down here. Anything that's a bit in between, it can stand the cool but not freezing. This is the perfect place for it. So there are flower seeds in here. There are broccoli seedlings. I did lose some things to a tiny little snail who'd found his way in here. And at the back here, that's an experiment. I have sown wildflower seeds there, and of course the grass always comes up first, so I'm not going to panic and think that it's just a lot of grass. And in here I have some mixed lettuce pots that I'm trying this year. I thought what I would do is bring on the lettuces, then prick out one of each different variety into these shallow but wideish pots and grow them on to be brought onto the windowsill in the house. That's my plan. And these are onions that I've grown from seed. They're to have eaten in the summer. And these are onion sets, which are bought like that, planted, and they grow on. And those are for storing in the winter. The seeds that I planted a few weeks ago for the peas have come up. And these are some spring onions. There are also other brassicas. Now the brassicas are quite hardy. So once they have germinated in the house, they can come straight down into the greenhouse, grow on here quite happily until they're ready to go out. The only trouble with the brassicas, which is things like turnips, swedes, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, like that. They just need protected from slugs till they get big enough to fend for themselves. So don't panic if you see a greenhouse full of seedlings in somebody else's greenhouse when you're just a beginner, because we all have to start somewhere, and there is plenty of time for sowing seeds. These are just sowed a bit early because I have a bit of sheltered space. Okay, now I planted these very early, first early seed potatoes into pot noodle pots. My granddaughter thought I was growing pot noodles for her and she was very excited. But she likes potatoes, so she let me off. And as you can see, this is popping its head up now. So what I'm going to do with this, bearing in mind I have a greenhouse to sit them in some shelter, I wouldn't put them straight outside. I'm going to put some common garden compost in the bottom of this bucket. Nothing fancy. This is the stuff from Asda. Put a few inches in the bottom, so 4 or 5 handfuls. There we go. Pop a couple of handfuls of chicken manure pellets in here and ruffle it about. Pop my seed potato. There's its label, I'll keep that. Pop my seed potato out of its pot. Look at the roots. What a good start to it, eh? And then start filling in with the compost around the potato. If you have a conservatory or something, you can bring them on like that. Fill this up. Covered. And now, just a couple of inches on the top. Give it a bit of a shake, make sure there's no air pockets in there. And I'm going to top that off with some wood chippings up to the top of the bucket. And that will keep it from drying out too much and stop weeds growing in there. Pop its label in and pop it in its place. And there we have right, let's see what we're doing next. So the first half hour on the allotment is generally nurturing and checking on what's in the greenhouse. And while that's ticking over, I am prepping the beds. So a layer of homemade compost is going on this bed, and as you'll see there, I've created a path with wood chippings between them, and it makes very accessible narrow beds in this space. So that's the first bed. These are no dig beds, so that's what they get now. They get about 1 inch of fresh compost on top. There you can clearly see the path, And I'm going to create more down here. There should be about 5 narrow beds. And the first thing I think that's going to go in here is going to be peas, which are growing away in the greenhouse. Here are the onions that are just quietly growing away. They'll be for spring and early summer. There's also garlic in here. There's garlic in this bit. Shallots there, and at the end is onions. I took a cabbage out of here the other day, which was so delicious. So take away some of these broken grotty leaves at the top, at the bottom. They're not required. And I'm going to give these a little bit of feed, because these are cauliflowers and they're getting ready to fruit soon. Yeah, I've never tasted such a nice cabbage. It almost tasted like broccoli, and I wish I'd get the packet because I don't know what it was called, which is why I keep packets now. I've learned my lesson. Then there's something I really like, I can refer back to it. This is where I'm going to sow carrots. I'm going to follow Terry's method, Terry King. Get another pallet collar here, fill it up to the top, and sow some seeds and cover them with a bottle, a plastic cut-off bottle. And my main crop potatoes, some of them are going in here in raised beds, because last year I had a disaster. Yeah, I got almost no potatoes, almost no main crop potatoes. The rest were fine. Flowers are coming on nicely in here. And I shall just take you into the greenhouse. No, I shan't. I shall take you into the polytunnel. Let's just throw these leaves in here. Get them in the compost. Oh, sorry, that was a bit fast. Now, everyone seems to be getting this one from B&Q, and I think it is not bad actually. In here, I have created a hotbed. It's not as hot as last year's because it's not as big, but it's giving a bit of bottom heat to these crops that I've planted in here. This one is some radishes, and this is a homemade brain's going label homemade label that I've made out of milk cartons. This is the time of year when you use a lot of labels. You mustn't lose track of things. So lots of labels for very cheap, well, for free. They're recycled. Elsie planted some carrots in here. I planted some carrots in here. And there are more little carrots in here that Elsie planted. And of course the radishes. And they will get a little gentle heat, because this creates a little microclimate inside this bag. They'll just get gentle heat from underneath, like that, up through the cardboard and the piece of latted wood that I've sat them all on. And they're also being protected from slugs. It's very difficult for them to get in there. I've got some more strawberries in a strawberry tower here. And over here, the purple sprouting broccoli are growing away nicely. And in between them, I have planted some spring onions that I started at home, brought down to the greenhouse just to harden them off a bit before I planted them, and they're now in here. So they can go in here earlier than they would outside, because of course it's a little warmer in here. There's more shelter. That few degrees of warmth makes all the difference. I have emptied the compost that was in this bin over to that one, put some cardboard over it, and that can settle down nicely, turn into compost, and I'll start a new one. And here I thought I'd show you my scrounge and skip dived finds. There's lots of timber here, bits of old fence that are going around a pond to keep the little ones off. I've decided I'm going to do a pond and just make a fence round it. Bits of timber here. And it's all skip dived and scrounged. Just carefully put down this one. It's my bin I haven't even used yet. You can see that this bit where I am going to put, I'm now going to put a swing seat there, I think, for Elsie, because she keeps running off and using X doors, as you've probably seen in a few videos. And also I have more finds. Of course, you've got to ask the person who owns the skip if you can take things out of it before you do, and knock on a few doors. So they can only say no. I've learned to stop being shy. Terry taught me to stop being shy. And I have skip dived. Look at this. Tons and tons of twin wall polycarbonate. Isn't that grand? What a find. That is going to build me a shelter. Yay! So, as I've already mentioned, my potatoes, my main crop potatoes, were an absolute disaster last year. It looked like the hungry caterpillar had been through them, and it was, slugs. I got hardly any. I managed to keep a few for sowing for seed potatoes, but that was about it. So, this year they are going in these funky little bags. I used some Christmas money for that, so there's only 10, but they're quite expensive. But I do like them. Or these plastic ones, which again are reusable for years. You can't avoid plastic, but you've got to be responsible with it. So some are going in these plastic bags. Some will even be growing. You can grow in anything. Even be growing in here. So you can put these on your patio. Put a potato in. Fill it up. Make sure you water it. What I would do to start with, if it's main crop, because main crops are indeterminate, so they will grow all the way up the bag. So if you start with your main crop potato, you go to shop for potatoes. Somebody will tell you what main crops are if you're a beginner. I am excited there's so many beginners. I hope you all do well. But if you're not a beginner, then I'm teaching you to suck eggs, aren't I? So this bed here, is going to have the bags sitting on it. So they're on some soil, so it's easy for them to suck up some water from the ground. And in the meantime, I'm going to be battling my arch nemesis. No, not Moriarty, worse. Bindweed. Take care of yourselves. Avoid the plague. Help other people avoid the plague. And remember, the most beautiful thing in your garden is you.